This week on the 77% Street Debate.
Actually, on the African continent, there's still a huge funding gap when it comes to financing women.
I'm a startup to register, and it takes me months, half a year, 1 year.
When you want to start a business, it's kind of hard. It's challenging doing it on your own.
But whatever your dream is, be 100% into it.
The 77% is coming to you today from the Humboldt Forum here in Berlin. We are coming to you on the sidelines of the Agile Forum. And the reason why we are coming to you from the Humboldt Forum is to talk to these people about the role that young African female business leaders can play in moving the continent forward. Now, we're going to start off the conversation by first finding out, why do people get into business in the first place? So I'm going to start off with you, Priscilla. What is your story? Why did you decide to get into business?
First of all, I would say financial independence. I love getting things I want. If I say I want to be able to purchase that or else I will start crying. So because of that, looking at how I was brought up, I stayed with my grandmother and everything I need, it was given to me. And when she wasn't there, I had to find means to get everything I need because that was how I was brought up. So I started being active, started the business to give me the money. And sometimes in my business, I train people as well. The most feeling parts for me is when I'm walking and I see someone I've trained. Hey, Miss Priscilla, that is why I started the financial dependency, and because when I see people and they appreciate me training them in the business. Thank you.
All right, interesting. Now, Augustina, is this similar for you? Did you get into business because of money?
No, not really. I got into business because I wanted to create change, and maybe a little bit to my background. So I was born and raised in Germany, but my parents are originally from Ghana. And since I was small, the country was always present, through other family members here, but also, travel trips. And I realized during one internship in Ghana that the country has so much potential, which is unused. And, I didn't want to be one of those people who just complain, but also bring solution to the country. So I told myself, when I come back, I will come with a solution that people, will find interesting or will need. And so basically, that was my motivation change.
All right, I'm going to jump to you, Jacqueline. Tell us a bit about your background.
When I started, I was always knew that I wanted to do business because I like the perspective of being independent and always be part of decision maker. So I would always look around in my area and be like, so what if I come up with a solution of this problem or this challenge which is going on? And that's how I started. Like back then when I was still in high school, I would just look around and be like, okay, let me create a solution for this. So basically that's how I started, and I like the independency out of it and knowing that I'm part of the change maker of what's happening. Yeah.
And the stories that we have heard here so far is a reflection of many stories for young African women, and women in general. You'll find them on Instagram selling clothes, selling makeup. But the challenge becomes when they want to move that small business into a bigger one, and that's where the problems begin to start. And that is what we are focusing on today, to find out what those challenges are and the opportunities that exist for young African business women. But before we continue, I'm also going to come to you and find out, why do you think it's important for women to be in business?
I think it's important for women to be in business because, one, it's empowering. You get a certain kind of drive from starting something, building something, being a part of it. And that alone allows women to get out of their shell, and dare to dream big and then manifest things they've always desired. I would also say that it's important for women to start businesses because they're the mothers, they are people who bear children most of the time, and that allows them to carry that knowledge onto their children and also to their communities.
Yeah, and unfortunately though, the differences between men and women in business is quite big. When it comes to, for instance, funding, a lot more men are likely to get funding than women. And that is where Melanie comes in. Tell us a bit about the funding situation for men and women. What are the dynamics?
So actually on the African continent, there's still a huge funding gap when it comes to financing women. Today we are talking about $42 billion of financing gap to support women entrepreneurs or businesses that can support women. So today, now there is more and more initiative seeing that abyssal challenge in front of us that have been developed from the financial industry. I'm thinking mostly about the 2X challenge criteria, which is an innovative that has been launched after the G7 to support, in particular, women through financial instruments. So $15 billion have actually been mobilized since 2011, and out of that, 25% went to Africa, which is the fantastic news because it means that we have more and more investors that are mobilizing funding, particularly to support women. And in this initiative, there are three main criteria. The first one is to finance companies that are owned by women. The second one is companies that employ women, and the third one, companies that produce services and products for women. So you see there is a huge spectrum and now also a taxonomy or a definition of what it is to do gender-lens financing or empowerment through finance for women businesses. And I find this very exciting.
Then, I mean, obviously, then it's easy going for you ladies to get funding because there's funding available, yeah? What's your experience?
In the past 2 years, that is where we are seeing government helping businesses at large, let alone female entrepreneurs, is different. And sometimes, even though there are the opportunities, how to see or find those opportunities is a huge problem already. And the eligibility. Sometimes you may ask for their books, the records of these businesses, but these businesses are most of the times traditional, and traditional female businesses don't keep these things. So if those things become too much of a criteria before I get funding, definitely I'm not getting it.
I'm going to throw a general question to you in the background. If there are women business leaders here, I want to hear what your experience is when it comes to funding. How easy has it been? Please, are you in business? What's your experience? How easy has it been to get funding for your business?
My name is.
I'll hold it for you.
Okay, my name is Beatrice Dosa. I'm from Ghana, and I am into creating sustainable clothing with African print. It's very difficult coming from Ghana, especially identifying the sources of funding to help you. So this has been my challenge, and also entering the international market is a big challenge. So we are hoping to see a cooperation whereby we are giving opportunities to access funding to go on a larger scale and also enter the European market, Germany as well.
I'm guessing that's the hope for many businesses on the continent. Now, I want to shift the conversation and look at the legal framework surrounding setting up a business and running a business in Africa. And I'm going to come straight to you, Priscilla. You operate in Ghana, so we're going to try to look at the two situations, somebody who runs a business in Germany and you in Accra, Kumasi, sorry. What are the legal requirements for running your business?
First of all, you should have a business registration document, and that is where the problems start from. I'm a startup. If I'm to register, and it takes me months, half a year, 1 year, before I get my business registration document. But the same government will come to me that I'm not paying taxes. How do I pay the taxes when I don't have my necessities?
And as a startup, you're expected to pay taxes?
Yes, in as much as you have waivers as a startup, you still pay. You have GRA, because the first thing you need to get is your TIN. Then you use the TIN to get, the TIN is your tax identification number. Then you use that to get the business registration documents. Then later, you will see the Food and Drugs Board, if you are into food like me, coming to you. You will see your municipal coming to you. And if I don't have the basics of it all, the registration document, how do I do that? And sometimes when you are starting, you don't have much technical knowledge. How many people are there to train me in business law? especially someone like me coming from a home economics background, food and nutrition background. I wasn't taught business law in school. So if a client is cheating me in terms of law, how do I face that person? That too is an issue. Until you get an incubator or an accelerator to take you through some of these things, you don't get them.
I see you nodding, Jacqueline. Do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, for Rwanda, it's a whole different story. Because for Rwanda,
A good story or a slightly bad story?
good story. That's what I was saying. Different to what's maybe happening in Ghana. Like for registering company doesn't take even 24 hours. Like 6 hours, actually, you can be able to register your company and you start to pay taxes when you are earning money, like you're earning profit. And they give you like a whole year. Then after a year, you go to explain whether it's making money or not. If it's not still making money, you are able to give the information about it. I wish like what's happening in Rwanda, it's not like I'm biased, but I wish what's happening in Rwanda, it will start to happen in as many countries as possible in Africa.
Do you want to move your business to Rwanda?
No, my people should benefit.
All right. I want us to now shift the conversation and look at solutions. And to kick that off, I want to come to you, Melanin. Earlier, you talked about funding that is available for especially women. And there are quite a number of women here who have talked about the challenges in accessing funds. Talk to us about what it will take for young businesses led by women to access this kind of funding.
Thanks for this question. I concur with all my colleagues here. It is very challenging, especially in Africa, to get access to that financing, and mostly because there is an asymmetry of information. It's very difficult, as Priscilla has said, to understand where those funding are accessible and then to understand how you can be eligible for that funding. So actually at Melanin Capital, the fintech that I lead, that is what we focus on. We work with banks like ABSA in Kenya to ensure that we can help women businesses to be eligible first for loans, because as you said, Audrey, there is very few venture capital coming for women entrepreneurs, but it's also because not all women entrepreneurs are eligible for venture capital. It is a very specific type of funding. It requires a kind of scalability, technology, innovation that not all businesses have, but they could be eligible for loans, and the market of loans is tremendously higher than the market for venture capital. So now the work that we need to do is really to make sure that we can make more women businesses eligible for that financing, helping them get access to those registration documents, the tax compliance, all the process that the bank need to go through so that they can tick their boxes and be able to give this loan.
Well, I mean, I was hoping to apply for funding, but now I'm rethinking it. Now, another interesting thing about many of the businesses that we are talking to here is that they are operating in spaces that are taking the climate very seriously. And I want to delve into that conversation and find out why it's important, Audrey, for businesses now to consider their climate impact.
We are beginning to see the physical climate risks that surround us, like flooding, droughts in parts of the African continent. You have excessive heat waves. You have, unpredictable temperature, rainfall patterns. And because of that, you realize that your once comfortable and well-known business model you've been operating for probably 2 years or more can no more stand. For us at Sabon Sake, we look at a secular business model approach where we're harnessing the power of biomass waste, in how we produce and manufacture soil products that help regenerate degraded landscapes across Ghana and the West and the African continent. That allows us to know that we're not, engaging or using chemicals, synthetic products, fossil fuels that deplete natural resources.
Great. Now, you came up with a really interesting idea. You decided to solve two problems at the same time, solving the housing deficit by using plastic waste. Talk to us about that.
Real estate market in Ghana is quite overpriced. Like if you look at the wages that people in average earn and the prices that are dominating, it was kind of not making really sense. I was asking myself, how will someone one day get a house, which is probably the dream of every family. So I thought, okay, how can we come up with a solution? And yes, through our technology partner, we were able to get the two problem, one solution. As you mentioned, using plastic waste to do building bricks. And for us, yes, we see an opportunity to basically address a gap that is basically completely ignored by real estate developers, and that's the people who have the average wages. Yeah.
And you, Jacqueline, are also doing something along the lines of waste recycling.
Yeah, exactly. So what we do at Westazon, we help in logistic process of electronic products which are no longer in use to be able, instead of being sent to the landfill, to be able reused or resold or being sent to remanufacturing industries. Because where the world is heading, there is always high consumption rate of electronic products, but people doesn't consider where does it go after the end of use. And that's where most of customers or household and even companies which are part of the manufacturers need to think the supply chain sustainability and green innovation system to come part of it.
And I'm glad you mentioned sustainability because it's one of the themes that I talked about earlier, talking about climate change. And earlier we were having a conversation and you told me that it is also an opportunity for African businesses. Shed a bit more light on that for us.
Yes, indeed, because even if Africa is struggling with climate change, as Audrey has said, it's also a huge opportunity. For long, over the 7 years of my career in impact investing, I've heard entrepreneurs saying, well, environmental is a bit of a Western or like a white people problem. We are only responsible of 3% of the GHG emissions. Why are we the ones that should first hinder our industrial development to be able to accommodate what the Western world has not been able to do? But I tell those entrepreneurs this is much more than that. There is a huge opportunity, especially on the funding space. We're talking about a sustainable finance market that reaches $35 trillion. And this is funding that we heard a bit with the women funding. It's concessional, it has no demand on collateral, it's much more attractive. Africa could tremendously benefit because it has this unlimited potential for renewable energy and large amounts of forest. Even at Melanin Capital, out of the 400 SMEs that we have in our platform, 60% are green innovations because it delivers an essential product or service to the populations. It's profitable for those companies, and then we are able to source for them funding at almost free money.
And you've listened to the businesses that these young ladies run. Off the top of your head, do some of them qualify if they meet the eligibility criteria for some of these funds?
Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about sequestration of carbon. There's not such projects are like exactly what those carbon compensators are looking for, because then they're able to say not only they save CO2, but they regenerate it into the soil. So those are tremendous opportunities that I hope to discuss later so that we can see how we can access funding at better rates for your business, Audrey.
It's really exciting news. Now, Audrey, back to you. If you could change something about the way business is done in Ghana to make it better, especially for female business leaders, what would you change?
I think I would change the culture of partnership. It's necessary, to look at your next business as an ally, as a partner in solving your objectives or in solving a problem in society. And also for women, it's necessary that we grow a network of women who are building communities that they can have a sense of belonging to. When you want to start a business, it's kind of hard. It's challenging doing it on your own. But when you get to interact and then leverage on other people who have walk that path or have the blueprint, it's easier.
Now, quickly to you, Priscilla, what would you change about doing business in Kumasi?
As a female, for them not to see me as strong. So one thing I've realized is when we see female CEOs, we put them in a tag. You are too strong, and it prevents the partnership, because imagine you seeking partnership with a male and who sees you as too strong. I'm not strong. I'm just trying to be me. I'm just trying to make the business prosper. as some way. We are all trying to make the world a better place here. We are not competitors. We are not fighting. Thank you.
Jacqueline, what would it take to encourage more young female Rwandans to also go into business?
I tend to believe that not everyone is tended to be an entrepreneur, but whatever your dream is, be 100% into it. If you want to be part of Changemaker, be part of it. But also, if your future or your passion is into being a changemaker in terms of being part of maybe like software, be also 100% into it and give out. Because at the end of the day, we are creating partnership. I'm an entrepreneur, but it doesn't mean that I can do everything. I will need someone in tech sector. I will need someone in being maybe human manager, you know. So I would say that let's all, as a female, be who we are and deliver 100% for the sake of creating the final right result. Yeah.
Now, earlier at the start of this debate, I talked about many of our female business leaders who run a small enterprise on Instagram or TikTok selling clothes and all of that. Now, you ladies here have moved beyond that. And my final question to you is that how do people move from that enterprise, that initiative, that small makeup thing online to actually establishing a business that thrives? You're smiling. You have something to say.
First thing is, do you love the thing you are doing? For me, everything about food is me. Yes, I'm an epicure. I love food. If you love it, you will see the need and the zeal for you to scale up. Because I remember when I started, it was social media, posting that. When people saw the love in what I was doing, so they could reflect it, then the referrals started coming. Oh, there's this baker, call her. There's this lady who sells cake. So for now, I get a lot of orders from referrals than social media because I've done them.
Okay.
So the testimonies are now bringing the people. So after the social media should lead you to your first clients, then those clients will bring you like thousands of them already. That is how I scaled up from the old clients I go and the referrals I'm getting. That is how I scaled.
Thank you very much. And what would you say, Melanie, about this? What would it take?
So I really like what Priscilla said because what she focused on was revenues. When you start with social media and you have this small, like, let's say micro enterprise, a lot of people are saying, I can't scale because I need funding. And then I ask them, what do you need funding for? Oh, I need an office. You don't ask an investor to pay for an office for you. It doesn't work like that. So you manage to get an office and to recruit people because you sell, because you have $1 billion opportunity in your head and you're showing this to social media. And that's the kind of mindset that we need to have first as women when we start our business. It's not passively waiting for funding, it's actively building a path towards growth. And that is really key. First, revenues and sales, showing that you can have traction, then funding will help you scale up.
Thank you very much. So you've had a diverse points of view here. There are people who say love what you do, are leveraged on partnerships, but don't be too quick to ask investors to pay for an office for you. That is not how it works. But across the board, female business leaders from the continent are talking about the things that are going to help you to move your business from online to a proper business. And before we wrap up, I'm going to go one final time to Jacqueline, who has something really pressing on her mind that she wants to share with the rest of the continent.
Well, I don't agree with what you're saying about small business and big business. Because according to WeForum, 35% of female entrepreneurs in Africa are increasing GDP up to 13%. So there is no small and big business. Because at the end of the day, whether the business is informal or formal in sector, they're still impacting the GPA. The only thing matters is how it's impacting the country in terms of GPA and economic empowerment to both sides.
Thank you very much. That's a really useful, important point to take from this conversation. And we have been talking to young female business leaders from across the continent on the sidelines of the Agile Forum, which is happening here in Berlin. We have been talking to you from the Humboldt Forum here in Berlin. Here There are several art galleries. You can see different art forms here in Berlin. And it is here that the young future leaders have been telling us how they are making Africa fit for the next century. Thank you for watching. My name is Michael Oti, and see you in the next one.